What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time here on a Sunday afternoon or evening. I'm Britt Devine, joined by Mr. STL Cards Justin. We got Taylor Smith. We got Tim producing. Tim on red alert for the Mets lineup when it comes in. We'll get that out to all of you. But Justin, we were on here last week talking about your Cardinals a little bit. It's still going on for them a little bit here. They're, they got Clayton Kershaw today. They got a second-year promising prospect up here today. What do you think of your Cardinals against the Dodgers today?
Yeah, they're going for a sweep, which would be mighty impressive. So, I think they got a good shot today. Kershaw's certainly not the pitcher he used to be, and it's about time they gave McGreevy a shot with all the other guys they're rolling out there. They've got about a 3-week stretch without an off day, so they're just going to use 6 guys for a while, which I think is fine. It should be a fun day today. Hopefully they can get the sweep. I think that would be certainly a pleasant surprise.
I don't know if you check scores and odds, Justin, but I'm anti-sweep today. I'm on the Dodgers over there today. They're scoring 1 run in 2 games for the Dodgers. Come on, they're going to score some runs today against McGreevy. Sorry to give you the bad news.
That's all right. No, it's all good.
Taylor, what's going on, dude?
Not much, man. I haven't gone in, I don't think since NBA ended, so happy to step in today. Kind of a slate, at least on the pitching side, but should be a fun time.
Yeah, so I guess we can kind of go into it. The first thing I want to do is go to weather. Tim, if you want to bring up the screen share at all, that would be great. We can go over Ross weather report. Earlier in the day, this was orange for both Philadelphia, the Pittsburgh game, and the Washington game. Roth has since reduced both of those to yellow. I think the Pittsburgh game, he had it as yellow-orange maybe 15 minutes ago. I was checking pre-show. All right, the Mets lineup's out. Tim, we can get back. We'll get that just after the weather here, and you can kind of come in and maybe give that to us, or I'll just go over it. But as far as weather goes, Justin, right in your article this morning, orange, right? I was like, what are we going to do with Skeens? What are we going to do with maybe the bats for Texas and Washington? Side note, Texas rolled out a horrific lineup today, so maybe we won't use any of those guys after they're sitting quite a few of their better players. I'm really not too concerned about weather anymore. Justin, are you kind of playing that the same way?
Yeah, it's definitely looking better. And just so everyone's clear, Roth is on vacation, so it's the unnamed substitute Roth that's in for him here for a week while he's out. But it's looking better. As of now, I'm planning to roll with it. In the Pittsburgh game is kind of the big one for pitching. So seems like they're going to get that in. And as of now, I'm planning on playing it. So.
Yeah. Taylor, anything weather-wise for you? This Minnesota game, a couple of lefties. We've got the wind blowing out. You want a couple of those lefties against Francis. Not the greatest names, but they're certainly in play today weather-wise. But I'm much more, if you were inclined to use Skeens, definitely on board that.
Yeah, based on the update, it looks okay. Yellow is still not ideal, obviously, but as of now, I'm not planning on fading anything for the weather. I guess we'll see over the course of the hour what happens, but for now, I'm all
I mean, if there's if Pittsburgh late starts, there is another band of rain moving in a little bit later in the afternoon. So, I haven't completely made up my mind yet, but I don't know. Moving it to straight yellow seems promising, but just knowing Roth, I think
it's substitute Roth.
I know. So I'm saying it. Knowing Roth, if this was Roth, I think he'd still have an element of orange in there. But that's just me trying to wadeweather.com, which who knows if that's accurate or not. So I'm not completely sold yet. Still keeping an eye on it.
All right. The Mets lineup's out. I'll leave the weather page up here, but it looks pretty normal. We got Mauricio hitting 6th today. So on FanDuel, that's going to be a really good play. What is he? Second and third base eligible at 2,700. Taylor, if you're looking for a cheapish play, Batty Alvarez. Mets lineup looks good. If you were looking to play any of the Mets today, I think you can. They're expensive on FanDuel, but you can make that work. We'll get into that as we sort of go around pitching and bats and all of that fun today. So I guess I'll go back to, maybe I'll go to SimLabs here first today, and we'll talk about some of the pitching overall today. And Taylor, you have McGill on FanDuel. You don't have him on DraftKings. If you use Skeens on FanDuel, you might have to forego all but maybe one of the expensive Mets, maybe all of them in particular today. So let's talk FanDuel first because they have the Coors games, right? You're going to want some of the bats, but McGill is certainly in play there as well. What do you want to do at pitching over on FanDuel today with Skeens being far and away the most expensive and him causing you to miss out on at least one of a Soto, Alonso, Lindor? You'll probably be able to get one in there, but that's about it.
Yeah, I think you're going to feel better about getting Skeens in there, but there is cheap stuff that I think you can get away with in cash on FanDuel. Like Tanner Bybee would be the one who stands out to me the most at 8-4. Got off to a slow start, kind of bounced back a little bit of late. Houston's lineup is entirely right-handed, I think. Maybe a lefty in there. Not an imposing lineup. They have a few more strikeouts than normal with guys like Cam Smith and Jacob Melton. Shea Whitcomb, maybe. Not a great bat at the bottom of the order. So no Altuve in there. Jake Myers hitting fifth. It's really not a good lineup. Obviously, Yordan Alvarez also missing. So I think if you want to pay up for bats, I think Bybee is completely acceptable in cash. McGill's fine. A little more expensive. Obviously, it's Coors, so you know how that can go. His control is pretty wonky as well. The Rockies are trash, which is worth noting, but I think I would be more comfortable just taking the extra $500 and playing Bybee on FanDuel.
Yeah, Justin, you wrote up Bybee too, with this lineup basically being all right-handed except for Jacob Melton. This really lines up with Bybee's career splits, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's spectacular by any means, but that salary does help out today. And it's, I kind of wrote that with in mind. If Skeens and Sanchez aren't usable, you're going to need to find something. The Brewers have also kind of thrown a curveball, and Freddie Peralta is starting today instead of Savale, so they've just flip-flopped them days. So you've got Peralta in the mix now. Joe Ryan and Jack Flaherty, really good pitchers, really tough matchups for both of them today. The Blue Jays have been red hot. The Cubs have one of the best offenses in the league. So it's all a little bit cluttered, and it makes it pretty difficult to break down, even though there's some good pitchers. But I think given that Houston lineup, the fact that they're only projected for like 3.5 runs and Bybee's salary tag, I think he's the obvious SP2 on DraftKings with the way that lineup looks.
What about on FanDuel, Justin? Would you go Skeens, or if you're on a cash or, a smaller tournament field, is it Skeens, a Bybee? Is it a McGill? Is it somebody else for you? Would you forego a Mets batter to be able to get Skeens in there today?
I think I would, though. I don't think you're necessarily making the wrong choice either way. I think McGill is perfectly fine on FanDuel. Like, he's got the highest strikeout rate on the slate. And even though it's Coors, I mean, the Rockies haven't done anything offensively the first 2 games of the series, 3 total runs. It's just the current state of their lineup just makes it, basically neutralizes the ballpark to a good degree. So, yeah, I think it's Skeens, McGill, Bybee, one of those 3 for sure.
And then, Taylor, I'm going to come back to you for DraftKings. What's the solution over there? So Bybee's, what, 7,200 over on DraftKings? He's, price per dollar, he might be the SP1 over there today. Is Skeens someone you're worth paying up for? If Ryan was a little less, if he was like 9-8, I think he would be in consideration. He's not far off from Skeens, but he's going up against, as Justin said, a hotter Toronto offense. And he's not Skeens, but it's, he's been very good this year. Skeens, Bybee probably is what I'm going to go with in cash. Is that what you would be looking at too?
Yeah, the Bybee salary makes it pretty easy to pay up for the 11K Skeens. Like, not an ideal spot against the Phillies, but no Harper. They've been cold in general. Good park for pitching also in Pittsburgh. So he's Skeens. He's probably not going to get blown up. I feel pretty good about that combo. I think if you want, there's not a ton to pay up for on the hitting side without Coors on DK, but guys like Peralta, Sanchez are still viable just because they're, I think, both under 9K on DK. So if you want to pair like Sanchez and Bybee or Peralta and Bybee, I think that's okay. But if I was playing cash, I think Skeens, Bybee's just the obviously right choice.
All right. Yeah, that's what I'm going to be going with too. Justin, let's talk a couple of tournaments here. You can talk small field, you can talk large field. I've got the SimLabs pulled up here for everyone to kind of take a look at what the Sims are showing, at least using the RotoGrinders projections. What are we doing here? This is more for DraftKings. Skeen's very clearly going to be the highest owned pitcher. I'm probably in agreement with that. Bybee, number 2, a pretty good step ahead is Zach Gallen and Christopher Sanchez. That seems to me, like Taylor and I just said, those are going to be the cash pitchers. Those are going to translate over to tournaments as well. What do you think of their ownership there? And then, it's not the greatest overall pitching slate today. Out of the Gallen, Sanchez, Flaherty, Ryan, Peralta mix, do you have maybe 2 favorites out of that as well?
I think Ryan would be my favorite for tournaments on DK simply because he's only $400 less than Skeens, and I think nobody's going to play him. As people feel comfortable with the weather in Pittsburgh, then Ryan's ownership will go even lower. I mean, I'd rather take a pitcher, even though Toronto's been red hot, I'd rather take a pitcher against them than a pitcher against the Cubs. So I've got Ryan over Flaherty. I like him for GPPs. I could make a case for Zach Gallen in GPPs, but the ownership's a little too hot for me. It doesn't really make sense. He's going to be somewhat chalky. I think you could just full out punt if you wanted to spend up on all the bats. You could go with like Lorenzen, though he's probably more of a safe guy. I don't think Bowden Francis is even that crazy. We know his splits. He really struggles against lefties, but the Twins really don't have a ton of dangerous lefties in their lineup. I'm not doing this, but he's 5,700. And if we sort the pitching projections by points per dollar, he's actually number 2 behind just Bybee. So it's not crazy. If he can go 6 innings, couple runs, and get 4 or 5 Ks at that salary, I'm not saying that's the most likely outcome, but I wouldn't argue against somebody doing that. It's just such a yucky slate for, depth of pitching that there's just not a lot of options here.
Yeah, I think the reasonable expectation is Skeens is pretty good. He's going to have very hard for him to get blown up. You're probably going to have at least one pitcher in on DraftKings, a 25 plus range between him, between a Ryan, between I don't know if Bybee can get that high up there today, but there's enough potential where one guy's up there. But like you said, it's a little bit of a yucky slate where you might be able to sneak by with one of the cheaper options if you're able to get that guy that does score a little bit higher on DraftKings today. Taylor, is there anyone, Justin mentioned Lorenzen. He mentioned Gallen. What's your take on Gallen? The 70s, Zach Gallen last year at 7,600. We're all playing him, right? And people are playing him today, but he's been quite a bit worse this year than last year. And Gallen historically has always been someone I've wanted to play when he's pitching in Arizona. When he goes on the road, it's always much more scarier for him. A lot of the Arizona pitchers have been that way as well. What are you doing with someone like him in maybe a small field tournament? And then how deep? What's like the deepest name you'd look at on a GPP field today?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Like, I don't love the ownership either, but he's 7,600. Bybee down there is going to be twice his owned, I think. So I don't know. He's not going to be mega chalk, I don't think, which makes him okay. I still have plenty of interest in getting to the Reds against him. Obviously not in the same lineup, but I think he's fine. I think the cheapest I would go on DK, more of a large field play, would be Brandon Walter against Cleveland. He's got some decent minor league data. Good ground ball guy, okay strikeout stuff. Cleveland, as we know, not the most powerful lineup. Not a ton of strikeouts either, but he's 6,700. I think it's viable if you want to fully punt to that position on DK. But in general, the cheapest I'm going is probably just Bybee.
All right, Justin, McGreevy did it against the Mets. Can he do it against the Dodgers at 7,400?
I don't think it's a horrendous play. I mean, the Cardinals, again, all these days without off days, and they've used up the bullpen pretty good the last few days. I think they'll let him go. It's just tough to make that argument against the Dodgers. If it was a better matchup, like if he ends up getting some soft matchups, I think he's absolutely in play. Really good minor league numbers. I mean, he's been ready for a while now, I think. So I'm not doing it today though, but it's I hope he pitches well.
Is he 15-1 to score less points than Tanner Bybee today? Probably not, right?
Probably not 50. If I got plus 1,500, I'd take it.
Yeah, I think that one too. And they're basically the same price. So maybe from a large field perspective, not the most galaxy brain play you can come up with, but it's, in comparison to the Bybee ownership, might make a little bit of sense as a swerve if you're playing maybe one of the chalkier offenses today. I think that's about it for pitching. Everyone good? You want to maybe move to some offense?
Let's do it.
All right. Taylor, let's just talk offense in general. FanDuel, you have the Mets. You're probably going to want to play a couple of those guys against the Rockies today. You can fit them in. Even with Skeens, it's much easier to get probably two of the bigger name Mets players. And then maybe a guy like Mauricio is probably going to be very popular on FanDuel today with dual position eligibility and a $2,700 price tag. He's hitting, I think it was 6 today. If you go a little cheaper at pitching, you're able to get a lot of those guys today. So outside of the Mets, what else would we be looking at today? There's not like a team you want to have. There's some good totals, but a lot of bad players on those teams that have the higher totals today. So what are we doing?
Yeah, I think I have as much Royals fatigue as anybody, but again, they're cheap. They're in a good spot against the White Sox with the park upgrade going into Chicago. Witt being really the only expensive hitter in the lineup. So even on FanDuel, where it's kind of looser in general, salary-wise, there's some Kansas City stuff I don't mind getting to. I think both sides of Arizona-Cincinnati is going to be pretty interesting for offense. The Diamondbacks look a little bit better as the visitors in that game. But, like we said, you can make a case for some Reds against Gallen. But the lefty Diamondbacks would be my favorite non-Mets thing on the slate, I think.
Yeah, I know, Justin, you liked Arizona's offense today against Cincinnati. You've got the Minnesota lefties against Bowden Francis. You can certainly get those as like a mini stack or a one-off, any one of those. I think any lefty on Minnesota is cash viable today, no matter where they are in the lineup to me. What else would you be looking at today? You got your Dodgers, are going to be, or not your Dodgers, they're going up against your Cardinals. They're reasonably low owned. They are very expensive if you want to try to stack them today. Just in general, what are you looking at for offense?
Yeah, the salary just makes the Dodgers tough to fit if you're playing Skeens. And, obviously they're going to break out at some point, but they have scuffled over the past few games. I don't have anything against the Dodgers. They're pricey. Otherwise, my top exposure is probably going to be Arizona for sure. Kansas City, Minnesota lefties as the top three. I do think the Cardinals are somewhat interesting. I mean, you look at Kershaw, obviously he's in his, 17th season or whatever it is, and he's got more walks than strikeouts so far. His K prop is 3.5. So the righties for the Cardinals, I think, are fine in GPPs. If you're looking for something a little more off the board, the Tigers against a rookie and Cade Horton would be another kind of off the board play. There's a few different ways you can go. Like, I'm not bothering with Texas now. Originally, I was off because of the weather. Now I'm off because that lineup looks pretty bad. And the Brewers would maybe be the other team I'd throw out there against a rookie pitcher as well. Lots of young pitchers going today.
All right. So that's a quick look at offense. Let's get a little more granular. Let's look at position by position. We'll start at catcher today. Taylor, I'll start with you. Let me try to get this up on my screen for everybody here. There we go. What are we doing on DraftKings today? You can spend up a little bit on guys like Herrera and Contreras. You've got Sal Perez's 3,200, I believe, on there. There's a couple other cheaper options too. How cheap do you want to go? Or are you up more towards that top tier?
I think I'm fine just playing Perez. Like, he might be washed. He's been pretty bad for most of the season, but 3K for a guy we know has power against the White Sox staff. Mike Vassell is like a long opener, I guess, for them. So I'm okay with that. It's not a great position overall. I'm not super excited to pay up for Herrera, though I think that's fine in tournaments. David Fry, a decent hitting catcher for Cleveland, 3-1 on DK looks pretty good as a tournament play as well. But for cash, it's probably Perez, and you move along. Just, it's really not a great position overall.
Yeah, it's probably Perez or Fry for me in that 3,200, 3,100. I would like to probably get Herrera. Like I said, I do like a couple of those Cardinals righties against Kershaw. Herrera would probably be that one. But just a little harder for me to get up to that salary on DraftKings today with how my lineups are going.
I think one more, worth a shout would be Kyle Teal at 2-4. Pretty good prospect for Chicago, lefty against Lorenzen. Not an imposing matchup. So I think if you want to punt it with him, that's also okay.
Yep, and that's a reasonable one as well. Justin, where do you see this going? I'll bring up SimLabs at catcher. We'll see what's standing out according to the Sims on maybe some guys you might want to be taking a look at today.
Yeah, SimLabs apparently likes Henry Davison and Jose Herrera, not the names at the top of my board, but that would just follow the full-on punt approach since they're both super cheap. Fry is the guy that I tagged today. Good power against lefties, back in the lineup, hitting cleanup at 3,100 on DK. I think he's definitely my favorite kind of upside tournament play. Would be a pivot away from Sal Perez. Agree on the Herrera take. I think William Contreras for Milwaukee would be the other kind of spend up in GPPs that you could look to. So, I think this is a somewhat interesting position today for tournaments just because Perez is going to have quite a bit of ownership. I wouldn't fault anybody for getting up to even Will Smith all the way at the top, but that just doesn't feel optimal at 5,300. So, no. David Fry is the guy I have the most exposure to. I don't have a ton of Cleveland stacks, but I do really like him as a one-off. And then William Contreras as well. I do like the heart of the Milwaukee order quite a bit.
All right, let's go to first base. Taylor, we'll start mixing in FanDuel because you have the Mets on, at least over there on FanDuel. So try to keep them in the back of your mind. We'll talk a little FanDuel too. Let's break it down maybe here real quick. What Mets hitters on FanDuel are your priorities today? So let's talk Lindor, Alonso, Soto. You're probably playing Mauricio on pretty much any cash team, I think, on FanDuel today at 2,700. A good tournament to play too, but maybe between Alonso, Soto, and Lindor, who's the odd man out of your Mets lineup? I don't think you can get all three of them with even a Bybee as your pitcher today.
Yeah, I think the odd man out would be Pete for me. First base has some decent value elsewhere. You can play Encarnacion Strand, Miguel Vargas, Pasquantino, things like that. And Dollander, he's probably going to be limited. I think it's a second outing back off the IL, so a few innings, but he has been far worse against lefties, which puts Soto at the top of the list for me, with Mauricio being the obvious value, and then Lindor would be the next priority. But among the top three, Pete's the one I would be most interested in fading.
Yeah, that's Pete is not on my FanDuel team at the moment too, and I do have Soto and Lindor. Justin, do you share both Taylor and I's view on the Mets' priority on FanDuel today?
Yeah, I do. First base is a pretty deep position, so I agree with that take. And with Mauricio getting moved up in the lineup today, and he's had a couple pretty good games even there out of the 9 spot. So pretty much in lockstep there.
All right, so that's some Mets talk. Taylor, let's go back to you and talk DraftKings overall for first base. You mentioned Encarnacion Strand. He's basically the clear value play on both sites today. What is he? He's 2,400 on FanDuel, and I think he's pretty close, 2,800 on DraftKings. Anytime you can get a reasonable power hitter below 3,000, you got to take a long look at him. And he's at home in Great American Ballpark. Zach Gallen's not having a great year. Seems like a plug and play.
Yeah, hitting cleanup. Gallen, while worse against lefties this year, historically kind of a reverse splits guy. So he looks good. 2.8 is just cheap for him on DK. So even if you're playing Gallen, I think you can play Encarnacion Strand as a one-off, just as a value. The next guy on my list, I guess, would be Miguel Vargas, 3K flat against Lorenzen, hitting 4th also for Chicago. I don't mind a mini stack of the White Sox, as gross as it sounds, just because the matchup's pretty good for them. Sal Perez, you can play first base, like we talked about. Pasquantino, forever cheap on DK at 3-4. And then I am getting a lot of Ohtani as a one-off, not really the Dodgers as a whole, but if you pay down for Bybee as the SP2, something like that, you do have the money to spend. No Mets on DK, so getting up to Ohtani is probably a priority, but I think more so in the outfield.
All right. Justin, tournaments, anyone in particular you're looking at here? Otani, Taylor just mentioned him, is showing up as one of the better plays on SimLabs, even at reasonable ownership and a high price, because he is, guess what, Shohei Otani. He can easily be the highest scoring bat on the slate today. Sal Perez, even at high ownership, is getting in there today. If Sal Perez or Otani at high ownership, which one would you rather be using today?
Well, on DK, the ownership on Perez is high because people are playing him at catcher.
Yeah.
On FanDuel, I'm probably not as high on Perez because you don't even need him. Yeah. But, the high ownership on Otani, I actually think our numbers may be a little high, just because that $6,500 price tag is pretty tough to get. Like, I would prefer, if our ownership is accurate, like, give me Freeman at 3%, just because of the potential there in a GPP. Hasn't been taking very good at bats the last few games, but we know he can break out at any point. He's near the top of the league in hitting. Josh Naylor may be one of the Arizona bats that'll get forgotten about a little bit, because I think you're going to see priorities for Arizona at other positions. We'll get to one in a second, but so Naylor I like a good bit in GPPs as well. Rhys Hoskins, another guy at fairly low ownership if you're on the Brewers. Miguel Vargas is hitting cleanup for the White Sox. So, Pasquantino, I think, is the obvious value for sure. But there's and Encarnacion Strand, who you guys talked about a good bit. So, and this is part of why Alonso just doesn't become as much of a priority on FanDuel, just because there's so many options here. So, and I didn't even mention Wilson Contreras. So there's lots of different ways you can go here for sure.
All right, let's go to second base. Justin kind of hinted at this. We have Ketel Marte as one of the highest owns in Great American Ballpark against a weak pitcher. A priority on, I think, on FanDuel for me. On DraftKings, I didn't end up on him. Would you rather have Ketel Marte, Bobby Witt, or Corbin Carroll today? If you had, I know they're all different positions, but like, who would you rather have today? I guess I'll go with Justin today. Where's Marte on the tier list of the players you got to have today?
He'd be number one for me. I think second base is just woeful. You look at the other options that are at the top. Jonathan India, what's it got to take for nobody to want to play India?
I X'd him out of the optimizers.
It's just, that's how bad second base is. Like, Gavin Lux, he can run into one every now and again, but he did that yesterday, so he's used up his running into one probably for a couple weeks. Meadroth for the White Sox, not super exciting. Marcus Semion's hitting cleanup again. I like Cody Clemens because, again, any lefty against Bowden Francis is viable, but otherwise this position is just a dark, ugly black hole. So because of that, like, Marte is the guy that I think if you're building a cash game lineup today, he's the first guy you put in there for a hitter, just because of the position more than anything else.
Taylor, let's chop this up on DraftKings today. Is Marte a priority for you? And then let's play 3,400, rank the second baseman, because there's probably 3 or 4 guys there that are all in contention, and maybe we could make some sense of that for the viewers.
Yeah, I'd probably just pay up for Marte and be done with it, just because it's hard to differentiate between the crappy value options. But there is stuff out there if you don't want to play India, like Marcus Semien, also not great, but 3K flat hitting cleanup against Trevor Williams. I think that's fine. Texas overall, just, they're not much better than the Royals in terms of frustrating the hell out of us every single day. But 4K or 3K Semien, I think that's fine. I do like Clemens as well. Willie Castro, very similar play, hitting one spot lower in the order, but he's $200 cheaper on DK. Lux hitting second, I'm okay with that if you want to land on that. Chase Meidroth, like Cards mentioned, 3K flat hitting second. Don't mind the White Sox at all. Getting an uncomfortable amount of them. So there is other stuff out there if you don't want to play India. Marte at the top being the obvious candidate.
All right, so I've highlighted, I don't know if you can see my screen share, Taylor, but we've got India, Lux, Cody Clemens, Willie Castro, and Marcus Semien. They're all in like this tier here. They're all close, in theory to the projections-ish to like the same play today. Give me your top 2 from those guys.
I would probably rank Clemens at the top, which is weird to say. But, Bowden Francis against lefty is certainly a thing. Probably Lux after that. Just I like Cincinnati in general, even against Gallen. India into ownership, certainly something you can fade.
Justin, I'm going to throw that to you too. Give me your top 2 from this tier.
Kettle Marte.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's I do agree though. I think Clemens, then Lux, then Semien, and then India last.
Yeah, I think it was the bat was likes India. The bat's liked India all year, and no, India's going to hit a home run again. I'm sure the guy I'm playing in the head-to-heads will have him as the second baseman today, just like he did the other time. But yeah, I'll be fading that with, and I do have Clemens. I would take Clemens as well at the top of that list there too. So it's Kettle Marte, 1A, 1B, 1C, and then probably Clemens in this mid tier. I think for all 3 of us. Let's go to did you want to hit on anyone else, Justin, if you weren't playing those guys from like a tournament, a one-off shot?
Not really. I mean, Gleyber Torres, maybe. I've got some Tiger stacks. More on the lefties a little bit though. That'd probably be the only other name other than the guys we've already talked about. I mean, this position's bad, so we can move on.
Yeah, and you have Mauricio on FanDuel as second and third. You can fit him into either one. If you're playing Marte, you might have to slide him over to third base on FanDuel. All right, third base, Taylor. There's a couple of guys. You got Suarez. You've got Mauricio on FanDuel. You've got, I think, Vargas. He's first and third eligible on DraftKings at 3K if you want a cheaperish play. Our projections are throwing Addison Barger as the highest owned third baseman. I'm not, maybe because he's 3,200. I might play Vargas straight up over him today if I had the choice personally. What are we doing here? It's just not, second base we had Marte. First base has a lot. Third base, the guys that are expensive, you don't really want to use today outside of Suarez. How are you approaching it?
Yeah, I think I don't mind Jose Ramirez, if you want to pay up in a tournament. In cash, you're paying up at other positions, I think, for guys like Marte or Ohtani. But Ramirez, even though I don't mind Houston's lefty, I think Ramirez is a pretty good one-off always. Miguel Vargas would be the one for savings I like the most if you're not playing him at first. On FanDuel, you're lucky enough to have Jonathan India also at third base if you want to play him there. Josh Smith on FanDuel also, I didn't mention at second base, but lefties against Trevor Williams certainly a thing. So I think he's viable, even though Mauricio is clearly the better value. On DK, I don't mind Barger. Joe Ryan against lefties is pretty average. Like against righties, he's incredible. Against lefties, the numbers are kind of mediocre. So I don't mind Barger. Don't love Toronto overall, but he's okay. Eugenio Suarez for Arizona is okay. Just obviously getting that big park boost going into Cincinnati. And then Max Muncy, never mind getting to like a mini Dodger stack. He's been good lately since he put the glasses on. So no issue with Muncy at all.
Yeah. What about SimLabs is throwing guys like Michael Garcia, even Suarez at a reasonable, usually the higher owned guys typically don't make the top of the SimLabs, optimal minus projection list. But Suarez, I think he had a game with 4 homers this year. When you have the ability to do that, you can just play guys like that, even at high ownership, because, a home run or, 2 will certainly get you there in tournaments today. Ramirez is sort of on this list too. A couple guys I'm not all too interested mixed in there as well. What are you seeing here, Justin?
Yeah, Garcia, I think is interesting. He actually leads the Royals in weighted on base against right-handed pitching this year, ahead of Bobby Witt. So, I like Garcia. My favorite 3 Royals, Pasquantino, Witt, and Garcia. So I'm fine with playing him. Obviously, like Suarez, Arizona's my favorite stack. I think Nolan Arenado is fine as well. He tends to be streaky. Got a walk-off hit yesterday. He didn't start against Yamamoto, but got a pinch hit walk-off. Was 3 for 4 on Friday. Was 2 for 4 with a homer on Thursday. So he's not the hitter he used to be, but tends to hit in streaks. And against the current low strikeout version of Kershaw, I think Arenado is is fine. Even if you're not on the Cardinals as a whole, I think he's an interesting one-off play because third base it's not maybe as strong as we've seen on some days and some slates. It's not as bad as second, but it's not necessarily the deepest position either. I suppose you could consider Josh Smith leading off for Texas today or Josh Young, but again, I'm not on Texas a whole lot, so not a whole lot to add here.
Did you see the quote from Arenado, or maybe it was the manager on putting him in for the game winning hit? He said, "Do you want to win the game for us right now?" Every hitter is going to say yes, right? Of course they're going to say yes. I don't understand that, but he did get the game winning hit here. I just thought that was
whatever it was, it worked.
Yeah, it worked.
But yes, it was a little strange.
Yeah, of course, everybody on your bench is going to say, yes, I'm going to go in and win the game, and he did it. Newsflash, sometimes they're going to do that, sometimes they're not. But I just found that funny. Let's go to shortstop. Taylor, I'm going to throw this to you. FanDuel. Lindor is 200 more than Bobby Witt. Who you got?
Probably take the discount on Witt, but no issue at all if you want to play Lindor, obviously Coors being Coors. So it's really down to those two in cash. I would lean Witt, like I said, but both are fine. I think it is a good spot for Corey Seager, even though he's been mired in a pretty long rut at this point. He's too good to stay this bad forever, I think. And the matchup against Williams is outstanding. So like lukewarm on Texas overall, but Seager as a one-off, can't argue with that. And it's kind of a bad position, honestly. I think you can punt it with Ryan Ritter if you want on FanDuel, 2.5 hitting second for Colorado, but it's Colorado, so not the most comfortable thing to do. I think I would just pay up here and move on because unlike most slates, shortstop does not have a lot of depth.
I've got Lindor over Witt. Justin, break the tie for us.
Boy, I don't have a strong take.
It's a toss-up. It's
it really is. Yeah,
split decision.
I will take Lindor.
All right,
but it's very close.
Razor thin. I would agree. Those are probably a position you're spending up for. You're not trying to get cute. I like Witt on DraftKings. I like Lindor and Witt on FanDuel. Those are a position you want to spend up generally. To me, would you be doing that as like a Bobby Witt? I know Corey Seager's prices come down. The price on Cruz and Turner today are a little ridiculous on DraftKings. Nobody's really going to be owning them, and then even at their reduced ownership, they're not even popping in the SimLabs today. Witt should be in the 6,200 range, if you ask me. I understand why the algorithms have those guys higher, but I think it messed up a little bit today. So Witt just looks really good on DraftKings today, Justin. Would you switch to one of the higher priced shortstops to get very different in a tournament, or would you just stick with Bobby Witt and eat the higher ownership?
I'm not playing Turner at 6,100 against Skeens. I'd play Ellie at 6,200. I think is fine in tournaments as a super contrarian play. I like Seager as well. Mason Wynn, I think, is for the Cardinals. If you're looking a little cheaper, hitting second at 3,900. Again, I like the right-handed bats against Kershaw. Perdomo hitting third for Arizona today at 5% ownership. Another guy that I've got quite a bit of today. Those are my favorite kind of couple tournament pivots.
Yeah, Perdomo popping in the SimLabs overall is the second best optimal play once you're factoring in some ownership as well. Let's get into outfield. What are we doing here, Taylor? There's, on FanDuel, you've got, I think Corbin Carroll's a priority across both sites today. He's someone, it's hard to say you'd play him over Ohtani, but I do get a little bit of a discount. So factoring the price, I think I'd almost want to play Corbin Carroll over him. Soto on FanDuel, also a priority. If you are paying for Skeens, he's probably the one you'd want to get in from the Mets too if you are paying up for Skeens. Is that what I take from your early analysis?
Yeah, I'd prioritize Soto. Certainly on FanDuel. I think Carroll will be next for cash, and then Ohtani. I think Ohtani, while great, is probably more of a tournament play on this slate. So, it doesn't feel great having him third in any group, but I think that's kind of the way it stacks up today. On DK, if you pay down for like Peralta, Bybee, you can pay up for two of these guys, Carroll and Ohtani. Obviously, we don't have Soto over there. But as always, there's pretty good value in the outfield. Sam Haggerty is okay hitting second for Texas. Popping as a value, the Twins, Larnach and Wallner, a couple of power hitting lefties that look good against Bowden Francis. Barger also, like we mentioned, at third base. You can play in the outfield. I think he's probably more viable at third, but fine either way. Jack Caglione for Kansas City looks okay in a full stack. Obviously, they're popping yet again. Jonathan India on FanDuel, also outfield eligible. So anywhere you want to play him, you can play him on FanDuel.
Just
really
dangling the
nowhere.
carrot. Play him anywhere.
Yeah. Evan Carter, another Texas lefty, decent value. Nimmo, obviously, on FanDuel will be less of a priority than guys like Soto and Mauricio, but still totally fine. Obviously, it's Coors. And then the White Sox, I'm getting a little bit. Tauchman and Benintendi in particular from the left side against Lorenzen.
Let's say I'm just looking at the salaries here. So maybe let's go with this 3,200 because Barger's in there, Castro's on there too. You've got Tauchman. What's basically your favorite 3,200 and below? Is there anyone below them you like more than those three? This is probably like as low as I'd reasonably want to go in terms of like what I would consider to be good plays today. So where would you rank maybe those guys for people looking for a cheap outfielder?
Yeah, I think I put Tauchman at the top. Benintendi not far behind, hitting a couple spots lower in the same order. Like, you know, you don't feel good about playing the White Sox, but I do think they're fine values given the spot. Osuna for the Rangers if you want to punt, but not amazing. I think it would just be Tauchman, Benintendi for me.
Yeah, I've got Tauchman as probably one of my stronger outfielder plays on DraftKings for the price today. So Justin, what are we doing here? The ownership on Ohtani, Carroll high. Carroll is drawing what, not close to double, but a reasonably more than Ohtani today. That price savings of 500 does go a good way on DraftKings today. Who would you rather have based off their ownership if this is indeed where it falls?
Yeah, I'm still taking Carroll, though I think my GPP approach would be to take like a bunch of mid-range outfielders. So like live in the 4Ks. A lot of people are going to go with Carroll plus Barger or Carroll plus Tauchman. So if you went with something like, again, I like the Minnesota lefties. So Matt Wallner, Trevor Larnach, Christian Yelich for Milwaukee is one of my favorite one-offs today. He's got really good splits against righties. Been hitting the ball really well. So you could do that. Something like the mid-range guys, Churio, Wallner, Larnach, Yelich, Riley Green, I think is interesting for GPPs, Parker Meadows, TJ Friedel, all those guys, all 6 or 7 of those guys that I just mentioned are all in the 4Ks. And they're not going to be, chalky by any means. The Minnesota guys will be fairly popular, but I like that approach, I think, in tournaments today.
All right. I see a lot of chatter about the weather in Pittsburgh. So I'm going to see. Now, I'm not a meteorologist, and weather.com is horrible, but we're going to give this a shot here. Are you ready, Justin, to try to throw your amateur meteorologist? We've been doing this for so long.
You got to put a disclaimer up.
We've been doing this so long for trying to figure this stuff out for DFS. I think I'm reasonably good at reading where the weather's going to go. Let's see what we can get here, if it even wants to load or anything like that. So I don't know where the stadium is. This is what it's doing now.
It's downtown, basically.
Yeah, so the future radar looks reasonable, spotty. Picks up a little bit around 334.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If they delay the start, it concerns me, but it doesn't look like it's really doing anything there right now. So if they start on time, I got to think that they were going to play through any small showers.
Yeah, baseball games are quick now. It's Skeens and this could be a 2-hour and 20-minute game, right? So this would be a quick game. Is this doing anything for you? Where let me go to now, basically.
The only thing that would worry me significantly is if we get news that the game is starting in a delay. That would make me concerned for the outcome of by the time they get it started, is there going to be another band of rain coming through? So as long as we don't get news of a tarp coming on the field, and that game doesn't start till 1:35, so it's 30 minutes after lock. So keep an eye on it. But if they plan on starting on time, I think we're going to get enough of the game in to where I'm not concerned.
Yeah. So there's people. I'm just I always look for people in the stands on Twitter trying to see what's happening. And
Yeah, well, it's Pittsburgh, so
it's not. There's not a lot of sample size.
It's Skeens is pitching today, so I imagine they'll have a big crowd.
So there's people are asking for a delay in the game, but I mean, if it looks like we got 60 to 90 minutes probably of very light rain or maybe no rain for Paul Skeens today. Let's say we get 5 innings of Skeens, Justin. Is that, does that alarm you at all?
Wouldn't be ideal for that salary, but it doesn't tank your lineup.
Anything you're seeing here, Taylor, that would maybe move you off Skeens if you had him in here?
Probably not. It's more of a lack of great alternatives, but if he's going to be significantly owned and there's weather risk, there's certainly a case for it. Like I said, like a Peralta, Bybee, Sanchez, those 3 are totally fine if you want to not play. Well, I guess Sanchez has the same weather risk as Skeens does, but he's a bit cheaper, so there's less risk if you kind of get screwed by that than you will with an 11K Skeens. But as of now, I'm still playing Skeens.
Yeah, if they're looking at the radar here, Justin, I mean, this is pretty. But an hour from now, there's not really much here to have anybody throw a delay out here, right?
Yeah,
I wouldn't think so.
My thought.
So, you get 2 hours, 3:30. Maybe there's some rain. That Skeens he's either out of the game because he got hit around, which is unlikely, or the game's in the 7th or 8th inning because he's mowed everybody down and your scores are looking pretty good. So as it stands for me, I don't think I'm going to move off of Skeens would be my latest call. I just saw a lot of people in there asking about it. I wanted to bring it up. We tried to do our best. We're not meteorologists. We've just been looking at radar for 10 years, Justin? More than that, probably.
Long enough.
Yeah. Long enough to understand what's going on here. So I think I'm pretty comfortable using Skeens at this point in time. Let's see here. Let me try to find a couple of questions. You can go throw them in YouTube. You can also go to the RotoGrinders live stream chat, and I will try to get to those as well. I've got the live stream pulled up right now, so I will go there first and get to YouTube in just a second. Let's see. Can you play Skeens and Sanchez in the same tournament lineup today, Justin? So we just looked at the rain. They're both in that same game here. What's your take normally on using pitchers? You're not going to get the W on both.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. It's fine, especially if, at least you've got the guys in the same lineup. If the weather ends up being a problem, that lineup was getting axed, even if you only had one of them. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I think today you could certainly do that. Sanchez, any pitcher, against the Pirates, I would certainly take, that could be 1-0 in the 6th inning, right? And even if the rain comes, both these guys have massive scores, and I think you'd be okay with that. Back to the live stream chat, DK Cash Outfielder at 5,600. So let's go to the good old lineup HQ. Let's go to the outfield, Taylor. Let's see what we got here for 5,600 ish. Who's your go-to?
Not an ideal spot, obviously. Like you want Ohtani or Carroll, but if you're stuck in that range, I mean, PCA against Flaherty doesn't feel great, but he does have several avenues to get there with the power and speed. So I'm okay with that. And then otherwise, I think you're probably looking at Christian Yelich against this Padres guy. But yeah, it's kind of not a great range, to be honest.
Yeah, 5,600 is where you're at. I would cut salary to go get a Carroll, to go get an Ohtani, or I would go probably down to Yelich and add salary elsewhere, like Taylor said. And Justin, I would imagine you're probably on that same page here today.
Yep, for sure.
All right. So that's, let's see here. That was the live stream chat. You guys can still post in there. I'll circle back to it in just a minute. We'll go to YouTube. I'm going to go in reverse order, right? So the latest you've posted you've got a better chance of getting your question answered here. So Black Mean wanted to know Brandon Walter in a FanDuel tournament today. So with all of the tournament options, including even McGill over there.
And Justin, you only get one of them.
Yeah, and you only get one. I mean,
pitcher.
I think to me it's just a little too thin on FanDuel to be doing that today.
Yeah, he's a better option on DraftKings where you need 2 pitchers.
Yeah, I don't think I would do that. Taylor, what do you think on FanDuel? I'm trying to pull his price up here today.
7.5 on FanDuel. Yeah, it's not great. I think I would just find the money for Bybee. Like, he's 900 more. You can cut something else somewhere. Just even though that's probably semi-chalky on FanDuel, I don't really love punting with a guy like that. Like, his second game in the majors, not an amazing matchup against Cleveland. If it's a large field tournament, obviously you can do that, but I don't know. I don't love the only.
I understand why, because if you're trying to get Alonso and Lindor and Soto and those guys in there, and even like another bat, I understand why you're trying to do that. What would be your choice here, Justin? If not Bybee at 8,400, who would be like your next? You're not going to want anybody, but who would be your next pitcher?
We're still talking FanDuel, right?
Yeah.
All right, I pivoted over there. So, yikes.
I told you weren't going to want anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably Lorenzen, but I don't love that either.
Yeah, I'd go Lorenzen. McGreevy 6,700. I don't know. Would you rather take a shot on that than Walter at 75?
Yeah, I probably would, but I'm not. I mean, on FanDuel, I don't think you mess with that.
Yeah, I generally want. It was a question. We're trying to answer it the best we can. Back to the YouTube. Let's see a couple more. Late start by 10 minutes in Pittsburgh. Did anyone see that get announced? A 10-minute rain delay. So now it's starting at 1:45.
Probably like they're just now pulling the tarp off and they need a few extra minutes to get it ready, but that's fine as long as they've announced that.
That's not going to do anything for me either to move me off Skeens. I'm not concerned about that. Taylor, anything for you?
No.
If it was like an hour, if it was an hour delay, I might be a little bit worried about it with maybe a later storm, but 10 minutes, I'm still full go on Skeens today.
Yeah, obviously that's subject to change, but just keep it.
Let's see. A Lord King Guru, DraftKings single entry, your SP2, Bybee or Gallon. So Bybee is definitely going to be the Skeens Bybee combo, especially in smaller field stuff and especially in cash. That's the combo everyone's going to be using today, Justin. So if you're using that, so let's break this down into 2 questions for him. If you're using that combo, what offenses would you be trying to pair with that? And then if you want to go to Gallon, who's also going to be reasonably high owned, with that change your strategy.
What was the combo again?
Gallon or Bybee is your SP2, but I kind of expanded on that question.
Yeah, I mean, if you're using Bybee with Skeens, I'd probably get a little, like, I wouldn't probably play a full Arizona stack with that, as they'll be pretty popular, or a full Royals stack. I'd probably go to somebody like Milwaukee or the Twins. If you're using Gallon, he's going to be pretty chalky too. So either of those 2 guys with Skeens, like, I'm probably avoiding the top projected owned offenses in those lineups.
Taylor, I'm going to throw it seems like chat's really on Walter today, and I know you talked about him a little bit at the start of the show here. Chat loves him. I know you liked him a little bit here. Do you think it seems like chat's hyping him up a little bit more than I think the ownership is today? Do you think the
is this
ownership
a bad thing, or is he popping in Cardi's projections, or what?
No, I didn't see it this morning here. I think it's just because people are looking for somebody with upside that's cheap, that's not BB on DraftKings.
And he has upside just because we haven't seen him and we don't know how bad he is.
So what do you think, Taylor? Here is we've got ownership at 6.5%. I think maybe that's bumped up, to it's not maybe double digits, 10 in like a large field tournament, but that's probably about it. What would you do with him, as maybe a Bybee swerve? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, if you need the ownership discount, like if you're playing Arizona or Kansas City or something and you're looking to go off the board, then I think it's okay. Like the Cleveland lineup is pretty bad on paper. Jonathan Rodriguez, a human I've never heard of, is in this lineup hitting 7th. So I see the case for it. He's cheap. I think it's fine. Like he keeps the ball on the ground historically. You're really only worried about Ramirez and Fry in this lineup. So yeah, I can see the case for it, even though it's not something I'm doing a lot of.
Someone in chat asking if TJ's not here. TJ's not here, but Tim is in the background running for us today. So there are no Spidey bombs. Tim, are there any taters, Tim? Did you happen to come up with something during the show? Tim? Oh, there it is.
No taters, Brett. Not yet. Not yet.
All right. We'll see. I'll give you like a minute or two to maybe come up with something. It seems like people might be looking for some Spidey bombs. Let's see. Dodgers going off today. I hope so. They were one of my plays on, I think my only play on Scores and Odds today. I had a very busy morning getting ready for this show. Didn't have enough time. The new 12 o'clock start time instead of like the 12:30 as haven't adjusted to that for getting my Scores and Odds picks in on a Sunday morning yet here. Let's see if we have any more. DraftKings Cash is from BGA Tom, long time in the RotoGrinders chat here. Otani and Smith or Yelich and Witt? What Smith? Is that a Will Smith? Josh Smith? Which Smith is that, Tom? We'll go on that. So Yelich and Witt sounds very good. Otani and a Smith? I would probably just say Yelich and Witt. That's
unless that's Josh Smith. That seems like it might work salary wise.
Yeah, it's Josh Smith. I'd take Yelich and Witt, right?
It's very close for me.
What do you got, Justin?
I would take Yelich. I like Yelich a lot today.
Yeah, I think I would lean that one as well. Let's see if we get a couple more here. It's from Mateo in YouTube. We've got about 3 minutes to lock here. Skeens and Happ or Horton and Otani. This is for DraftKings Cash. So it's
I don't think
very
Horton and Cash. So
yeah, you're not playing Horton and Cash, and you probably don't want to play Happ and Cash either. What's the Cubs' obsession?
Yeah. So what's Happ's price? Let's get this.
There's got to be somebody in Happ's price range.
3.8.
3.8 is pretty cheap for Happ, but I wouldn't play him. I would play.
Yeah, you're not playing Happ and Cash against Flaherty.
I go down to that 3,200 range of Tauchman. Who else is down there? Taylor Barger. There's Castro. One of those guys, right? And spend up elsewhere. That's probably where I'm at.
Yeah, I don't think you need Happ. Like you're just kind of forcing him in because he fits. But Larnick is 100.
I was gonna say if you got an extra 100 for Larnick, that would be my first choice.
Yeah, that'd probably be a good choice there. Pivoting from Skeens to Ryan or Peralta, if you're at all around that. I think Ryan is a very good swerve. The only thing you're worried about Ryan, like Justin said, is Toronto's been hitting hot. But Ryan's good, especially against righties. The majority of the good, in quotation, bats are righties for Toronto. I think Ryan's a very fine swerve today if you wanted to get away from Skeens for whatever reason. Are you okay with that, Justin?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Taylor, are you on board? If you're, I would still take Skeens over Joe Ryan. But if you do have concerns, it opens up a little bit of salary going. The easy pivot is to Joe Ryan today.
Yeah, no problem with that. Toronto's righty heavy, no Varsho, so Ryan against lefties not great, but not many great lefties in the lineup against him.
All right, we got two taters from Tim in the background. Michael Garcia. Plus 650, Mookie Betts plus 600. Tim is just on DraftKings where he lives, so I would assume those are DraftKings prices. Check your local sportsbook for whatever else you might have on there. But those are a couple from Tim. I'm on the Dodgers today. Justin, did you get anything up on Scores and Odds today, or too busy this morning writing, getting ready for the show? All that.
Yeah, I took Arizona to win and Arizona over 4.5 team totals. So I like the Diamondbacks today.
All right, Taylor, if you had any sports bets, you got anything going today? What's your favorite play thing thought on the board?
I don't mind taking a shot on one of these Twins lefties. Home run declines longer odds than guys like Lark and Waller. But I think that's something I'm interested in. Or like Addison Barger might have pretty long odds. I think that's kind of sneaky.
Yeah, I bet every Twins lefty, both their bases, their hits, runs, and RBIs, and to hit a home run. So I did not get all that on scores and odds, but I do have any lefty for the Twins today. All of the above. I'm just going all in against Bowden Francis today. So we'll see. Hoping that doesn't bankrupt me, but that is definitely something I did this morning. All right, we hit lineup lock. A last-minute weather update. So they did delay a few minutes. I'll do this just for a minute. We'll get out of here. We'll see what's changed in 10 minutes. I don't think we're going to see much on the radar. Let's see. So it's here. It's clear for a while. If I go to the future forecast, in the future, I mean, I'm not. So if I look at the future forecast here in Syracuse, New York, I know if it's BS or if it's not based on what's like happening. I know that because I've lived here forever. I don't know what that looks like in Pittsburgh. So I will play it, but I won't be able to tell you if it's BS or not. So it looks like you've got, an hour, 2 hours before something heavy comes in that might cause something based on the future radar. I don't know what it looks, if that's like real in Pittsburgh. I hope you guys understand what I'm talking. Do you understand what I'm talking about with the radar, the future radar, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and if it's 2 hours, that's fine. It's basically a whole game these days. So I have come to the conclusion that I'm playing with it and we'll live with the consequences.
Yeah, I'm on Skeens too here too. Is AccuWeather better? Yeah, I'm not really sure. I should always get in the app that Ross says. I could check that, but I think
that one's better. AccuWeather and weather.com is a toss-up.
All right. So I'm on Skeens. I'm not moving off of him. He's on my DraftKings team. I'm not on Skeens on FanDuel. I have gone a little cheaper at starting pitcher to get some of the Mets over there today. That's going to do it for the show. Hit the like button on the way out. I'll go do that too. That would be great if you guys do as well. For Justin and Taylor, it's been a fun Sunday afternoon. Thanks for Tim for producing. I'm Britt, and we out, Joe.